major. Okay. I'm trying a new thing. Okay. It's looking like it's recording, but it could also not be recording. Very hard to tell what's going on. I don't know whether you can hear me because I can't see anything. I'm trying to use my recording platform that I use for recording my podcast. And I worked out that I can link it up to YouTube and LinkedIn and TikTok as well as I'm talking, which is great because it kills lots of birds with one stone. But it's also quite odd because I can't wave at anybody or say hello or anything like that. Um, and the thing on my computer is saying that my sound is turned off, which says also on another button that it isn't. I'm going to try just talking for a bit and just see whether it works. Um, I just had an absolutely fantastic conversation with another Dr. Jenny. So it's all the academics on my podcast, which makes me really happy because they're so helpful. And I'm so buzzing with excitement about the second Dr. Jenny, hot on the heels of the first Dr. Jenny. So we have a Dr. Jenny with an IE, double N, IE, and a Dr. Jenny with a Y. And both Dr. Jennys are doctors of clever things. And they're both doctors of theology and spirituality and divinity and all my kind of bag. And one came on a couple of days back, and I got muddled up because I thought they were the same person. And I had Dr. Jenny in my diary. Had a message from Dr. Jenny, the second Jenny with the IE, with the Y, saying, "Are we having a meeting today?" And I thought I'd done the thing because I'd had Dr. Jenny anyway. Long story. It turned out I talked all the way through this podcast, which was an hour and 19 minutes long, which isn't how it should be. But we got really carried away. And she's talking about Samhain, and we're going to release this thing in October around Halloween, which is so Samhain is the pagan festival for Halloween in a nutshell. Apart from it's obviously not that; it's a lot more than that. And she is amazing. And the other Dr. Jenny is also amazing. And they were both recommended to me by two of my really close friends separately. And we're chatting away, and I kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to have to get you on with the other Dr. Jenny because you'd have so much in common and you'd be really great. And I'd just love to put you together in a room, and wouldn't it be brilliant?" Got to the end, turned off the thing, had a post-match analysis. And she said, "Who is Dr. Jenny?" Dr. Jenny. And I said, "Oh, it's Dr. Jenny Riley." She went, "Dr. Jenny Riley? You're joking." And it turned out that Dr. Jenny IE, Dr. Jenny Azell, had taught Dr. Jenny Riley, no, other way around. Dr. Jenny Y, Dr. Jenny Azell, had taught Dr. Jenny IE Riley at Durham University. And so they were both Durham graduates and postgraduates and doctors of all the things, doctor of clever things. And they knew each other really well. And Jenny with a Y had a pot plant from Jenny IE. And I was right. All along, I was right. They would be the most brilliant combination of people because they both have so much to say. They both had a really similar kind of nuanced way of looking at the world, which I thought was really exciting. So, I mean, I've got so much going on with my podcast right now. I can't really sleep with excitement. There's going to be a little, I mean, I don't know if Nigel knows this yet, but we're going to do a series. I've said, could we do a series of 7 pilgrimage ones? Because he had so much to say that was so relevant and helpful and interesting about the 7 stages of pilgrimage that I decided it would be really great. As he was talking, I just thought, I know that people can't get enough of him because he's just amazing. And I thought if we had 7 weeks, 7 consecutive weeks of stuff about pilgrimage, we could do the 7 sections of 7 stages of pilgrimage and go through it with everybody. So that's going to come up as well. I'm also working on a series around ceremonies and transitional, um, for the Trans Week, Trans Awareness Week, because I feel like that would be really, really special and healing. And I have friends who have done this quite a lot as celebrants. And they're all coming on and they're all happy to do it. And there's a real sense of privilege for me. I can't believe these people have worked so hard and thought so hard and spent so much time reading all the books so we don't have to. And they just come here and share. But what's also really nice is that they get to share, which they don't always have that option. And I love that they did that. I learned so much about pilgrimage the other day when I worked with Nigel. We didn't even get to the end of an hour, and I just said, "Look, we're going to have to come back because I had to go." So much about it that I didn't know anything about. We're going to release that series around the Hajj, so will be the big Islamic festival of pilgrimage. So we'll be looking at other people that might want to be talking about it, but it might end up just being me and Nigel because we just got obsessed. It's so relevant. And what I'm loving about the conversations I'm having, including the one that I had today about paganism and the one I had with Dr. Jenny R.E. Riley with the grave goods, is all of these things are very relevant for the present age. They're all really helpful, positive things that you can integrate into your life, regardless of what your belief is or your cultural background is, or they're just really helpful ways of looking at the world that help us to feel integrated and connected, and like we've got some kind of sense of agency in the world, that we have a connection to the people that we have loved and who have died, that we have a sense of connection to ourselves and nature, the sea, the land, the rivers. This is like a theme that's coming through. So when I work with Meg Trump, who married the River Avon, Mrs. Meg Avon, you'll find her on Instagram, and the film Save Our Avon. So she married the River Avon. She came on and spoke with us about that, and you can find that episode is already published. And when I was speaking to Jenny with a Y, Azal, about the pagan festival of Samhain, she was telling me about the idea of connectedness, of animism, and how if you start to think of things like rivers as living things with a personhood, a sense of actual something that you need to protect and nurture and love in the way you would with a human being, we shift our perception of the world and the planet in which we live, which would be a helpful thing to do. I think anyone would agree. When we got to the end of our conversation, so sometimes I go to do a live and I don't really have the energy I've got now. My podcast really energizes me. The way chatting to my couples and people that I work with energizes me, because I'm curious about people and I love them, and I find it all really exciting. And I don't often, when I go live, know what I'm doing it for. So I then just don't do it. So I thought it would be really nice to come on feeling like I'm really full of the energy that my work brings me. So I can come on here and share that with you. And that's actually something worth sharing. To me, what I'm doing with my podcast is bringing to the attention of people that might not otherwise have access to them, people who really have something positive and hopeful to say about human beings. There's so much shit stuff that human beings do, but human beings also do incredible things, and they have amazing histories, and they have tried to make meaning over the period of, like, since forever. We've tried to make meaning. And then we have this very sort of old fashioned way of looking at belief. I mean, Dr. Jenny was saying how she doesn't even think the idea of belief is a particularly helpful idea. But even that is something that's very Western in its concept. So picking apart language is quite an interesting thing to be doing with people, and I've just enjoyed all of it. When you think of a pagan festival for Halloween, I feel like maybe a lot of us think of films, horror movies, weird shit going on, maybe ghosts. And when she was talking about the experiences that she'd had doing these ceremonies, they actually just felt really helpful, really healing, really connecting, not particularly weird at all. And I think we have quite strong ideas about what is right and what is wrong, and we imbibe these concepts from our own religious traditions and cultural heritage. But when you really start to look into these traditions, even that we've inherited, they're all very layered and complex. Excuse me, I'm going to have a coffee. They're very layered, they're very complex. They're not, we believe this and we've always believed this and that's always been a thing and this is how it has to be done, which is something that gives people a really strong sense of safety. We believe that things have always been done this way and that gives us meaning in itself. The fact is, they very rarely have. Most things evolve, they come from somewhere, they morph into something new, they adopt something else, new cultures come in and something seems helpful, so we pick that up. There's dynamics of power where things are imposed upon us that we're forced to take and we believe in public, but then we don't believe in them in private. So it's, that's all the stuff that's really fascinating about theology and academic study, is that there are so many different ways of understanding things that we take for granted, that we think are completely true, that we have to wear black for funerals, that we have to have people wearing top hats and suits, that we have to use a funeral director, that we have to walk down an aisle, that we have to have our dad give us away. Sometimes it's really important to keep those things because you have a meaning of them that works for you and the people you love. It might be really important to you that dad has a funeral where they're wearing a suit and a hat. That might be something that is very much about respect for you. That might be something that dad would have loved. It might be that having your dad give you away in your wedding is really, really valuable and important. It's something very emblematic about your closeness, about your relationship, about protection, about love. Or it might be that you see it as a form of patriarchal control, but it really depends upon where you're coming from and what you're trying to do and what your relationships are and what those celebrations represent, what the rituals you're engaged with mean to you. I found that I'm meeting people on my podcast that have connections across the death sphere or wedding spheres, and there's a lot of, oh, do you know so and so's? It's not a particularly small area of work, I don't think. So it's just quite interesting. So Rosalie, who's coming on from Rituals Today, she's doing a lot of work about movement and embodiment and how we using ritual as a form of movement into ceremony um, is really very important in terms of healing. There's quite a lot of work going on around that and trauma. Oh, I just swallowed a fly. That's not good. It's a very small fly. Very small fly. I am vegan, but we'll let it go. Can't remember what I'm saying. Dr. Jenny, she said that she does a lot of stuff with paganism and druidry, and they're not entirely the same as a big umbrella thing called paganism, and then druidism sits underneath it. So lots to learn there, lots to learn. And she was saying about one of the things that she thinks paganism or druidry brings to us in the contemporary era, and what might arguably be called in a secular age in the UK, let's say, is its use of movement and ritual, and how those rituals and those movements can become very meaningful. They might not be about beliefs, but they might be something that will really help you in your life. Rosalie is going down the same road. So people that work in these fields, we pick things up as we go. We see things happening, we think that looks helpful, that looks unhelpful. I wonder why they're doing that. Is it really necessary to carry on doing that? I wonder what might be really more helpful to this person that's in terrible distress, that might help them to recover in some way, some sense of themselves in the light of this trauma. What can we do to help people? I mean, in the end, most people want to help each other, I think. At the end of my podcast, I always ask people what gives you hope for humanity. When I started out, I would ask this question and feel really self conscious and cringe about it. And every time I ask people, they always
always knew what it was. They always had an answer. And I didn't always prime people. I hadn't always said in advance, I'm going to ask you what gives you hope for humanity. And quite often people haven't had time to read it anyhow. So you say what gives you hope for humanity, and they know. And so I've kept it in for a while. I thought I'm not going to do it anymore because I feel a bit weird. And then people were saying, oh, laughter gives me hope, small acts of kindness give me hope. So many different answers. They're not all the same, but they all make sense. And people do still have hope for humanity, even in the light of what we're all living through in this period of time globally. People still have hope for us, which is extraordinary and astonishing and wonderful. So I just wanted to come on now while I was full of beans and full of energy and delight and joy and gratitude for all of the people that come to me and share their stories, and share that with you. And let's see what happens. Let's see. Has it actually recorded? Has it gone to all the different platforms? I should be showing up on LinkedIn and YouTube and TikTok right now. Whether I am or not is another matter. It says I am. Whether you can hear me, I don't know. It says I am and it says I'm not. Like my mic is on and it's also not on, so we don't know. And I also can't respond to anybody, and I don't know what happens to these recordings once they've gone out. So they might just disappear from TikTok or disappear from YouTube, or they might just remain there, and then we can save them and you can watch them later. I'm wanting to do a lot more live stuff, and knowing that I could do it all in one place like this feels brilliant. It also feels a bit odd because I can't connect with you. So, do, if you wouldn't mind, because life's an experiment, can you get back to me and say you were just talking at a camera like a complete, I'm not going to use words, but anyway, you were talking and we couldn't understand anything you were saying, we couldn't hear you, or it was cutting in and out, or no, it was fine, it was really clear, or I would have liked to have watched it on a catch up after, but it disappeared. Um, those kinds of things, because it would be really cool if I could do this routinely and then maybe even save it for my newsletters and that sort of thing, my Substack and my Patreon. I didn't know what to do about this Patreon. I was saying to Mrinal, what's the point in me having a Patreon who wants to listen to me? Probably not many people. However, the people who come on my podcast are really, really cool and interesting, and they're really worth hearing. And I would love to bring them to a wider audience because it really feels to me everybody knows all the celebrities and they're watching, maybe they're watching Pilgrimage on iPlayer, or they're watching, you know, they know people who are good on camera, who are famous. But some of these academics are really life affirming and helpful people, and they're not getting a voice. And that really bothers me because critical thinking would be good at this point in our history. And critical thinkers are not being, because they're not monetized, they're not being celebrated, and they're not being promoted. Um, and we're going to have to think our way out of this mess one way or another, verbally or otherwise. We're going to have to find a way out of our mess. We can't just destroy our planet and destroy each other. That's not really an option, is it? And I think it's sheer hubris and arrogance to believe that we can do that without thinkers. So the idea of sharing those thinkers with you feels very appealing, and I feel like using a Patreon would be really nice for people that want to hear more from these people who do need a platform to share their ideas and their stories and their books and their thoughts and their understandings. So that would be a win-win for everyone. So I will have a word with all of my contributors and see whether that's something they might like to do. My Substack might have a little bit of live stuff on it as well. If you want to join my newsletter, you can go to Opening Ceremony Podcast on Substack. And I on there I just write from the heart. I can't, because there's so much of what I do has to be targeted, has to be marketing, has to just so that I can reach an audience with what I do. I don't always have the freedom to freely express. Like many of us don't really have an opportunity to freely express. Even if you write a blog or you write copy, you're quite often having to do it for search engine optimization or for, for your rankings, for all the things. And when I write my Substack, I just write it sort of for me, like something I might want to read myself. And that's quite nice. If you want to join my newsletter for Brighton, for my funerals here in Brighton, or my living funerals in particular, you could go to celebrate. What is it? um, www.celebration Crazy Diamond Celebrations. Crazy Diamond Celebrations. And you can sign up to my newsletter there, and then I can keep in touch with you. You might be a celebrant that's interested in doing that stuff. If you go on my YouTube, you can find out all of my just all of my podcast is on there recorded. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the other one, all of that. And then you can find me on Substack with just the writing. So there's all these different ways that you can access my work. But more importantly, there's all these different ways that you can access these incredibly interesting people who are really trying to make a difference in the world and not being heard quite often. Well, they're very niche and they're very geeky and nerdy about what they do, and it just not everybody's thing. But there are a lot of people in this world for whom it is their thing, and it probably should be. So if you want to access their work and you want to work with me on a living funeral, I would be so happy to hear from you, because I'm still really wedded to this idea of doing living funerals for people who know that they're dying. Maybe they are having assisted dying. Maybe they're very elderly. I mean, there was recently a thing about David Attenborough saying, he's nearing end of life because he's old. That's true. So I just, and working with people with dementia, doing ceremonies for them. I would like to hear from you about what you might want from your living funeral. I'm not here to make assumptions about it. I'm here to offer a service to people who want something, who don't want something after they die. They want to make meaning for themselves and their family, and they want to do that before they die. They want to hear from the people in their lives that love them what they loved about them. They want to say thank you to the people that they love. So if you're one of those people who's saying, I don't want a funeral, ugh, or I don't want people talking about me behind my back, or even I'm English and I don't want to be centre of attention and it feels really kind of showy offy to have a thing for myself, bear in mind that you can use those events to thank other people in your life, to offer gratitude to your daughter, to say thank you to your uncle, your neighbour, your carers, your hospice. It doesn't have to be about you saying, look how great I am, or other people saying how great you were. It might be an opportunity to put things right with people. It might be an opportunity just to catch up with old friends. It doesn't have to be, here I am. I was an astonishing person. Everybody's going to tell me what an astonishing person I am. And that's really embarrassing. I'm not going to do it. I keep hearing repeatedly that that's an objection. That's something that people are really worried about, and you don't have to be. It doesn't have to be that. You can work with me in a number of different ways, by the way. If you want to find out everything about my work, I'm in a local magazine at the moment, in Discover Brighton magazine, which is a fantastic little publication. I'm really proud to be in it. I have lovely relationships with the people that write it. They write my copy. They're so supportive and they're really passionate about what I do. If you're in Brighton, you pick up a Discover magazine and you find the centre page. In fact, bear with me and I'll find it for you. I really, really hope you can hear me. This is the magazine I'm talking about, and they come out every month, and I'm in it every month. But I've got a special centre page thing, centerfold, not playfold, centerfold. And this one's about polyamorous weddings, but it's also just about everything that I get up to. And you can find me in there, and you can also find me at jess-may.com. Jess-may.com is where you can find out about my weddings, polyamorous weddings, micro weddings, living funerals, celebrations of life, and my podcast. So if you go to www.jess-may.com, that will take you to a landing page, and then you can click on weddings if you're doing fun stuff, funerals, which can also be fun stuff but might be a bit more tender, or my podcast. So then you can find out everything there. And I can then put you in touch with any of these people that you find interesting. If you want to find out more about Nigel Pedlingham and his work with microdosing in Amsterdam, if you want to find out more about Dr. Jenny Riley and everything that she gets up to with grave goods, she's interesting in her book. If you want to hear about the other Jenny, Jenny Uzel and paganism, if you want to hear about my lovely friend Katie Costello, who's like a rising star in the firmament, and you'll know Katie Costello for sure. She's my favorite. She's my most popular podcast because she's so awesome. She's also a personal friend. My personal friend David from Ashes to Blooms, talking about the seed balls that he makes and the story of his business, trying to make a difference there around pet death. The Dead Pet Girls, talking about pet memorialization. Well, we've got Postal Service for the Dead. We've got Miranda Ash, the celebrant, who is the wedding celebrant of the year 2023, I think. And she's also really, really involved with guiding the path of the Academy of Modern Celebrancy. She's amazing. She came and spoke to us about self-worth. She's a really close personal friend. I've known her since 2013 and we trained together. So I've got loads of incredible connections with these wonderful people, and I'm so grateful for them in my life. I really want to share them with you, and I really want to do more of this. So that's me really. I just thought really this is what I do best. I mean, I can sit on camera and I can create these little reels and it's all fine, but it's quite fiddly and it's quite slow and it's not interactive, and my work is about relationship, it's about connection, it's about these kinds of conversations. So I'm increasingly hoping to do more live recordings because it's what I do best, and then just upload them and you can tap in and out whenever you like, and you get in touch with me then and you can say, loved what you said about X and Y, where can I find that person? I mean, there's Dave the Plant Man Dave, Dave the Plant Man. He's a legend in his own right. He's on TikTok. He's an incredible, not a botanist, he's a horticulturalist. And we talked about memorializing with roses with him. So there's something for everyone, really. And I'm looking to do little mini series, and I want to know from you what you want to hear about because I can find those people for you. I don't want to be making podcasts that you don't want to listen to. So I want to hear from you about what you want to know about ceremony. And really, I'm talking about ceremony because it's what I know and it's what I love. It's because I have witnessed the power of ceremony. I have seen the difference it makes. I have seen how it heals people's souls, really. And I have seen how it helps people to transition from difficult times to happier times. I've done ceremonies for people who've had naming ceremonies where they had difficult births and then they had really difficult postpartum stuff, or they had neonatal, really, really severe neonatal problems where babies are tiny and it wasn't known whether they would win a life, whether they would live. And then we did a ceremony with a community choir and letting go of all the difficulty and the trauma around that birth and that early life so that this little boy could live a life that was just about being who he was. So those kinds of things happen. You don't know about them because you don't do what I do. Funerals where people have literally had to bury their children in, I mean, maybe someone's 17 who's taken his own life for no discernibly obvious reason. They've had to come to terms, and we've had shots of Baileys, we've had Rumi, we've had his friends playing guitars by the graveside. So we've had weddings where you might be neurodivergent and you might be really nervous, you might be socially anxious. Weddings like that, weddings for intercultural couples where you've got someone who's Jain, who's from the Seychelles, and someone who's Roman Catholic, and you've got the two families don't get on. The ceremony takes you through that process from families that don't get on to families who do. So I'm not making opening ceremony podcast for no reason. I'm not sat there thinking, what should I make a podcast about? I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about ceremonies. I'm making a podcast about ceremonies because I know they can change your life, because I have seen them change people's lives, because I think it is really, really close to what it means to be a human being. If you talk about ceremony, you talk about every aspect of life now and going way back into history. You talk about animals, you talk about relationships, you talk about love, you talk about loss, you talk about grief, you talk about it's everything is in that thing that human beings, not uniquely but largely, is a mainly human activity, get engaged with ritual and meaning making. And I hope that opening ceremony reaches people with that message. I feel like that is my vision, is for my people, these lovely people, to be brought to the public to say to you, there's hope for people, there's hope for humanity, and there are ways of finding meaning in the world. There are ways of finding meaning in the world, and we have some of those ways. We have some of those answers, and we have all these other questions, and we would like people to answer them, and we would like to be engaged in the process of finding the answers. And all of the people that come here, they want the best for people. They're good people with a lot to say. So, what's not to love? I absolutely love doing it. I love my podcast. I feel like I've found where I need to be in that. And I love that you join me. You are my constellation. I am so pleased that you're here. And I really hope that in some way you can hook up with me. And I most of all hope that I have not been talking for 32 minutes and 2 seconds and you've not heard a fucking word. That would be really annoying. Okay, I'm gonna try and turn this off and we'll see what happens. Bye.